Ignore what I just said.
Nitrogen
the answer is
the
nitrogen.
Most common gas in the atmosphere, okay? The composition of nitrogen is approximately 78% of the world's atmosphere. Oxygen is the second most common at 21%. It ranges between 18 and 21%, depending on if you're at sea level. I'm talking about sea level, okay? The next most common gas is argon at 0.93% approximately. Other gases represent 0.376%, and actually CO2 represents about 0.35%. 0.35%, less than almost 1/3 of 1% of the Earth's atmosphere is CO2. That's the big picture. Of the CO2 that gets out into the atmosphere every year, only 1% comes from the United States, 3% from the rest of the world. So really, it's in the margin of error, right? It's within the margin of error. You really can't distinguish between mankind-produced CO2 and naturally produced CO2. So for mankind to say that if we remove 1%, if the United States went back to pre-1600 days, we still would have a negligible effect on the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, period. In other words, we'd have to destroy our entire economy to go back to pre-civilization. It's just silly, absurd. Now, here's what's more interesting. Okay, so the four major drivers of... here's another question for you. What caused the ice ages, repeated ice age, and I repeat the word repeated ice age over the last 4.7 million years? And what is the year cycle? How many thousands of years are the cycles?
I really should know this because I did a whole piece on the ice ages.
Okay, ice ages started about 4.7 million years ago because the North American continent and Greenland went far enough north to cut off the Pacific littoral current from going into the Arctic and the Gulf Stream from going into the Arctic. Prior to then, there were no polar bears. Arctic Ocean was open all the time. First, so the plate tectonics, theory of plate tectonics says that, continents move around, and these continents move far enough north. So, but why is the cycle repeated? Well, the repeated cycle is approximately 100,000 years of ice age. In other words, glaciers cover the entire North American continent and most of Europe and Russia. Then, every 100,000 years, they begin to thaw, and there's an interglacial period of about 35,000 years, 25 to 35, depending on which scientist you talk to. So why does it do that? The answer to that is that there are two actual global orbits of the Earth around the Sun. One's a little bit further out and longer, and the other's a little closer in and shorter.
And the point is? The
point is, if you believe in global warming, believe that mankind can have an impact on plate tectonics, the currents, ocean currents of the Earth, or the orbits of the Earth around the Sun. If you don't believe that mankind can have an impact on any one of those three, don't believe in global warming. It's just that simple. Mankind cannot affect the climate. That's the point. Because the Sun and the Earth have much more macro environmental impact on it than man can ever think about having. Not that we don't affect the local environment. That we definitely can do that. And mankind has done things to change the local environment. But we can't affect the global climate.
What are you recommending for having cost-effective solutions to advocate and prepare for energy independence, if there is such a thing? I think there is always interdependence on this earth. Right. I do understand the concept of energy independence, but what energy solution that's on your radar right now that you're looking at that you think should be utilized?
So short-term and long-term?
Yes.
What do you want to talk about first?
I want to talk about both.
All right, short-term?
Yep.
There are several steps we can take immediately short-term. Number one, open up exploration on our continental shelves first, and continue to open up exploration of natural gas resources in the United States and other hydrocarbon resources.
And that would manifest as what?
It would manifest at a lower price worldwide for the price of oil and gas, because automatically people who've really studied this, and I've done some study into this, we have, I don't know if you know this, but America is the world's third largest producer of hydrocarbons.
Explain what a hydrocarbon is.
Oil and natural gas.
Okay.
Okay. Third largest producer worldwide. Despite the fact we've been doing it for over 100 years, we're still the third largest producer. And the only reason why we're not the largest producer is that we aren't allowed by our government to do so. Our government shuts down our ability to even look for it. It's illegal to look for use seismic activity.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. This has been true since 1972 when Carter came into office. We are not allowed to use seismic activity off our coast, period. End of statement.
What do you mean we are not allowed to use seismic activity?
You can't go looking for oil off our coast, except in the Gulf of Mexico, off Louisiana and Texas. And
why is that? Is that because it's federal domain?
It's federal domain, correct. Off 3 miles off most coasts in the United States, it's all Minerals and Management Service, which is U.S. government under U.S. Fish and Wildlife. And it was an executive order by Carter that shut it down.
Can it be repealed?
Well, Bush opened it back up, and Obama shut it down again.
Got it. Well, maybe it is that governments are in the gas and oil business. I mean, maybe that's part of what people need to understand. That makes it a politically controllable domain. And there's no way to privatize that once a domain is locked up, is there?
Privatize.
Well, I mean, making oil and gas available. The energy companies are private, so why wouldn't this be?
What Alaska, I think an example, you can either use maritime Canada or Alaska as an example of how it can work and work well. Texas is also one. I don't know that experience as well. But Alaska, as you know, ANWR, National Wildlife Arctic Refuge, has been shut down. And the ANWR is not that much. It's only, 100,000 acres or something like that. It's not very big. Yet, modern technology now, you can drill 20 miles underground sideways. So there's no reason to believe that we can't be outside of ANWR and drill underneath and get the oil. But they're not even allowing oil companies to go in and put in a minor footprint of something like 4 or 5 acres and drill down and get the oil.
And that is because that's locked up as well?
Politically locked up by the environmentalists, yeah. And that's the same thing pretty much true of our coasts. Now, does that benefit the oil companies? Well, sure. By actually disallowing oil companies to go and get the oil out of the ground, right, it lessens the supply, increases the price, and therefore they make more money. So you can say they're in collusion, but I would tend to doubt that assertion. I would say that they're more like, they want to get in there. They want to make money. They want to, lessen their job is to really make things better for the United States. And P.S., of the worldwide oil supplies that we know as proven reserves today, only less than 3% is controlled by private companies. The rest of it's all owned by governments.
Okay. How does the energy independence, how can it be made to happen if human beings are not in charge of it, really?
They can't.
Unless we're using completely advanced alternative energy solutions that are not even being utilized in modern times.
Well, ask yourself, how many types of energy have been effectively reduced or taken off the table by environmental laws? Oil and gas exploration is one of them, right?
Right.
Nuclear power would be another one. It's been taken off by politics, not by science. Hydroelectric has been effectively taken off again by environmentalists. That is dams and rivers, right? And the fourth one you could actually say is it's in its infancy and yet hasn't been attacked. It's being talked about in some circles is solar power in space.
That's interesting.
Very interesting. Very interesting. What they do is they build these, platforms in space that collect the solar energy and beam it back to Earth in microwave form.
In a microwave form?
Microwave, yeah. Wow.
We have enough microwave radiation on this planet.
And that goes back to what you're talking about by microwaves, electromagnetic pulse radiation problems. But let's not go there. That's a really complicated issue.
Yeah. Oh, I've already been there. You just used the term environmentalist. What do you mean when you say that?
Well, let's just say this straight up. I'm an environmentalist.
Me too.
But I don't believe that mankind's activities on Earth are the primary cause of its problems. Yes, we do cause problems. And yes, we are greedy and self-interested. Yes, let's just take that as a given. But that self-interest doesn't go to the extent that we're willing to completely destroy the Earth in order to get what we want, because we know that destruction is suicide. So we will make mistakes. Humans do that on a regular and minute-to-minute daily basis. But in general, people don't do that. Now, environmentalists believe almost exactly the opposite, that mankind's the problem. and mankind should be shut down because of its greed and whatever else you want.